Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast Prep Baseball Talk, powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. Fall ball around the corner. Get your team ready. You don't have to play. You can put 20 guys on a roster. Go ahead and do it. Fill it in. Everybody's playing soccer, football. Get some reps. Have some fun in the fall with some fall ball. It's always great to do that. Game 7 Baseball's got some tournaments finishing up down there in Branson at Ballparks of America. Good stuff. Go to game7baseball.com, register for fall, and get your team some extra reps. I think and if the weather stays like this, it's going to be very fun. There you go. And so, folks, today on the show, as always, the guru, Mr. Kevin Moulder, coming back from a little hiatus, feeling refreshed, right?
Yes, feeling refreshed. Had a great run throughout the summer and was able to get away for a week and ready to get back to it. Had back to school night last night with the kids, and September's right around the corner, and that kind of kicks off fall ball. So looking forward to that.
And you got some events coming up. We were talking just before we started. Talk a little bit about those, Kevin.
A couple coming up. The first major one is our Missouri Fall Games at Atkins Field, of course, in Columbia. We've gotten a great response already for it, and but we do have a couple spots available still. That's always a fun event. Then we have the Battle for the Arch, which is an invite event where Missouri takes on Illinois over at GCS on a Tuesday night. I believe that's the September 26th. So that's what we got coming up right around the corner. Two fun events.
I'm looking forward to it. We'll be out at the Battle for the Arch. I always like that because it's just, you see the guys from Illinois, you kind of get a sense of, and just finishing up with the All-Star game, Illinois versus Missouri for the American Legion All-Stars. It's a lot of fun when you get a little
Who won that one, Brian?
Missouri.
Nice.
Dude.
Good. Heck
of a ball game, 4-3 ball game. Some really good pitching on both sides. The Keegan Fowler from Maryland Heights, post 213, had the winning RBI. So there you go. I'm trying to remember. It's terrible. I should have remembered what high school he went to. Can't. Oh, well. I'm sorry. Sorry, Mr. Fowler. But nonetheless, and then the young man from the small school, Lincoln High School in the middle of the state there. Connor Lined, there it is. Boy, the gray hair ain't fooling nobody, brother. Connor Lined, Kevin, is a lefty with really good stuff. He pitched the last two innings, 1-2-3, 1-2-3. Gavin Woodson pitched the fifth inning from Ellsbury. 1-2-3. Really, Missouri's got some good pitching. They really do. They got some kids. Nate Moore was there pitching. Saw a kid from Middle State, Moberly Post 6, Jackson Angle. Really good stuff. Good righty. Looked like he's low 80s. We didn't have a gun or whatnot, but good curveball. Just was, he was solid. It was fun watching. It really was.
opened up in 2019, and basically there was a void in the area. I mean, we saw that there was an opportunity to have a retail store where people could come in and actually touch and feel the tangible object that they're buying.
Today, we're going to get into this because I think this is a great topic. We're heading back into school. I know it's early, but because football season, but going into fall, I think these are things as kids are approaching their freshman year of, coming into school. You would hope, Kevin, that these kids know about their high school program, correct?
Yeah, going into the fall, you should have a general feel of what your high school program is about and like, I would think.
And I don't know about other schools around the state. I know the GAC has their freshman camp, which, and then I know the schools, the GAC, and I think most schools do this. They have their elementary and middle school camps in the summertime, correct?
Yes. Yeah,
So,
and that's a great way to get introduced to the high school coaching staffs and kind of have an idea of expectations and get a taste of what it's probably going to be like a little bit.
it's always good to get on the coach's radar, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's not a baseball thing. That's just any sport, and it's a great idea. I mean, middle schoolers entering high school, or a year or two away, and you might be a 3 or even a 4 sport person right now in middle school, which is great. Um, that's a great way to gain some exposure. To your high school that you plan on going to, and then getting a taste and figuring out, okay, I might play 4 sports right now. I might try to whittle it down and play 3 or 2 my freshman year of high school. That might help give you a little bit of a feel for what you may, or give you an idea of what you're getting into, and give you an idea of what to pursue when you get into high school. And then generally, it kind of takes you a certain direction once you're in there, and it kind of gets whittled down, and probably 2 sports. There are some 3 sport athletes still out there, and unfortunately, at least in my opinion, a lot of it's turned into 1 sport athletes. But I'm certainly in favor of playing multiple sports, especially through middle school, and there does come a point in time when I realize it gets to be a lot of time and commitment, and things are so competitive now, where kids are playing a certain sport close to year round, for to develop and whatnot. So it gets hard to play. The old school 3 sport athlete is starting to become a dying breed.
I agree. And it's unfortunate, but it's just the reality, especially in larger schools. Class 4 and down, you're going to still see these 3, even 4 sport athletes.
100%. And I should have clarified that statement. And the 3 sport athlete is not dead, but it's not. It's not what it is when your grandpa was in high school, for sure. Certainly, I think that's a fair statement.
It's different. You got a 550 student class, as opposed to a 200 student class.
100%. And we talk about this, when we talk about the baseball playoffs, for Missouri high school baseball, and how it can be tough on the pitching. But the bigger schools, the 5 and 6As, it's completely different than the 1, 2, 3As. And, you get at that level, on sheer enrollment, you're going to see more 3 sport athletes, and, the good athletes are going to be football players and basketball players and baseball players, or wrestlers, or, something along those lines. You're going to see them out for all the different sports because they need the numbers.
Yeah, one of the best athletes I ever played football with was a state champion wrestler. Ended up at Iowa on a full ride. This was in Arizona, and
Ooh,
man,
he must have been a good wrestler if he went to
yeah,
Iowa.
yes, yeah, he grabbed me one time, and I thought I was going to die. You know, he's just like, I'd never this strong, and he was our middle linebacker and just could hit like a freight train, man. Woo, mercy.
Sounds like a good guy to have at middle linebacker.
Exactly. Jim Gressley. Yeah, gosh. Man, mercy. That's a memory in the Wayback Machine right there, bro. But anyway, I think it's interesting too that, Kevin, as you're bringing that up, when you're talking about those class 5 and 6 school, this is where parents, you have to understand this and helping your athlete, these kids, getting them into that place, because if you're going to a class 6 school, especially in the GAC, you got 60 kids coming out for that program. That might be a large, but at least 40. At the minimum, you got 40.
Oh, 100%. You're absolutely correct. It's going to vary school to school, of course, but some of our high schools are so competitive just to make the freshman team. So that's where going to those camps in the summers before, so the coach kind of at least knows your name and gets you identified, could certainly be a help. And I also think it's important. I give this recommendation at our events and when I'm talking to kids. Hey, if you're interested in a college, go watch them play. See what that looks like. You think you're an SEC player? Okay. Maybe you are. Go watch Mizzou versus whoever, when they're in town on a conference weekend. You want to check out a Division I baseball game, go down to St. Louis University and watch them play. Go out and watch Maryville University play. Go watch one of our great junior college programs that we have in the state. And the first thing you'll notice is the separation isn't very far from most of these players at the junior college, even all the way up to Mizzou. Yes, there is a difference, but to the casual observer, you're going to have trouble identifying most of the differences. And usually there's just a better looking athlete, at those bigger schools. A little taller, a little stronger, a little leaner, that type of thing. But the same thing will apply to a middle schooler. I would give the same advice. Go watch a high school baseball game at your, in the springtime. See what that looks like. And yes, you're a couple years away from being on a varsity team, most likely, but it gives you an idea of what you need to shoot for and how those guys play and what it looks like.
I think that is perfect advice. Parents, if you're listening, do that. Go do that. I would suggest it, especially the middle schoolers, supporting where you're going to school. Go support your team too, right?
Oh, and it's a fun time too, especially, for a middle schooler. And there's some school spirit, and that's a good thing to indoctrinate your kids with, that if you're going to that high school, to get up there and support those athletics. And the more they see it, the more comfortable they will be when it's their turn to be in that environment.
I like that thought process too, because I see a lot of the families, their son graduates, their daughter graduates out of the school, they're part of the athletics and things like that, but then they don't go back. I've always gone back to the school, watched the programs and whatnot. I think that's important. I think that's community, supporting those. Both my kids graduated from Zumwalt East, and I root for them because I was invested in that. My children were there. I know those people. I like those people. And I think that's the support in the community that helps continue the program, show some support, because you know, as a coach, I mean, sometimes, man, it's tough. You you're in a tough stretch, or things are not going your way, and that community support, I think, goes a long way, Kevin.
It is phenomenal, yeah, and I've been on both sides of that, as a coach, as a parent, and as a fan, as an alumni. It is wonderful for the coaches, the players, to see community support behind you. But I think really all sides benefit. Yeah, the coaches and the players appreciate the support, but those of you with young sons looking to play high school baseball, I think it's equally, if not more, valuable for them to take in a game or two and gain some exposure to it.
So, Kevin, as we're talking about these incoming freshmen, you're thinking about this. You know, I think the first question is, do you want to go to college, right?
Well, honestly, I think the first question is, do you want to make the commitment to play high school sports? Because it does start to change that's the first time, in my opinion, that things really start to change. Yes, there are more committed, middle school teams than others. There's certainly a rec level versus a highly competitive level, and I recognize that. I see that. But high school is when, to me, the scoreboard really turns on for the first time in one's life.
That's a great point.
you know, uh, Making certain mistakes, and there's consequences, and both good and bad consequences. Um, and you're going to have to work hard, most likely, if you want to be able to be a part of a team. And so if you don't want to put in that commitment, and it is a large commitment, it is, most of these teams are, you're going to be there every single day after school, sometimes before school. Um, your weekends. If you're a baseball player, you might not get to go on spring break. These are things you need to think about. To me, it's a relatively small sacrifice, and you don't even look at it as a sacrifice if that's what you want to do, because you know that to get the end result, that's the work you have to put in to achieve that. So it shouldn't even be viewed as a sacrifice, really. But you are having to commit to that. So to me, that is step one. And that was kind of my point on the 3-4 sport thing. Maybe get some of that identified on the front end before you go in and say, okay, I'm going to take a shot at these, maybe these 2 or 3 sports. Pick one out in the fall, maybe pick one out in the winter, maybe pick one out in the spring. And then after your freshman year, you kind of have a really good feel. And then often you see kind of the pyramid effect working. And
Yeah.
it does get harder to make teams again after your sophomore year, because now you're trying to make the varsity team, and there's 2 classes for one team, basically, not to mention a couple of the elite sophomores and freshmen making that team. So, but that, to me, that's step one.
I like that. That's better than I put it. I like that because, there's a lot of kids, parents might even say, we want you to go to college, may not know what you want to do or whatnot, but we want you to go to college, get an education, this, that. And, there's a lot of kids in high school right now really don't know what they want to do in that respect, still finding that way in that process. Because as you always allude to, and I think this is absolutely true, would you go to that school if you're thinking about college? You've made this decision, you've made that commitment, you're playing. And there's a lot of kids after their senior year of high school baseball, they're done. They right?
100%. And, I know there are some players, or a good amount of players, that think they want to play college baseball as freshmen. My advice to you would be, work extremely hard and make your varsity team first. and you will start getting phone calls from the schools when your work is showing through. Playing college baseball isn't it is somewhat of a choice, but in a lot of ways you have to be invited. Now you have the choice in the fact that you can present yourself in front of these coaches. You have the choice to work hard. There's all sorts of different levels to find an appropriate place to play for you. Um, but when it goes to college, it's a little bit less of, hey, I'd like to do this. It's more, hey, we want you to do this. So it kind of shifts, in my opinion, again, from high school from college.
I love this thought process because I had a different scenario in my mind as I started this. Now, hang on, Kevin. I'm going to say this because I want you to come back to this, because this is turning in, and I think this is exactly right. You're exactly right. I'm getting ahead of myself, as we have a tendency to do, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in there and tell you step number 2 that is going to surprise some folks. Um, and maybe this is actually step number 1, but we'll call it step number 2. Um, if you have any inkling that you might want to play college athletics, the best thing you can do is take care of business in the classroom, um, because that is going to open up so many more avenues for you. If you take care of business in the classroom, um, get good grades, it's going to open up your options. If you are let's just call it a 4.0 student, or you're at the top of the class, because I know that there's more than a 4.0 and AP classes and all that, and you have good test scores, ACT, SAT, and I realize that we're going a slightly different direction in today's world than some of that stuff. But at the end of the day, if you have good test scores, you have good GPA, and have good attendance and have a good track record, that's going to set you up where all the schools are in play. Hey, Ivy League, power, high academic schools, state schools, junior colleges, they're all in play. You get to choose what you want to do with that. Now you go down a level, and if you're a student like myself, there was an okay student, but not a great student. I wasn't getting the phone calls from the Ivy Leagues and the big time academics. So unfortunately for myself, those weren't options for me. Those were eliminated because I wasn't that type of student. So my window was slightly smaller than some of the ones with great, phenomenal grades, and that's okay. But that's what I had to deal with for choosing. Then you go another step down, and you take even more schools out, and you're maybe barely eligible for college. Well, now not only are you not able to get any academic scholarships to stack on top of a baseball scholarship, which, folks, by the way, is 11.7 for Division 1, 9 scholarships for Division 2, Division 3 there are no athletic scholarships. JUCOs, they do give out full scholarships at most JUCOs. But if you're at the lower end of the academic scale, you're not going to be able to get any of those academic scholarships that are nice to stack on. And then obviously there's those that really shoot themselves in the foot, or maybe they're just school's a struggle. Maybe they didn't shoot themselves in the foot. Maybe it's just really tough. Then you're probably looking at a junior college as an option. So that point being, handle business in your class. And I can't tell you how many kids I talk to kids at my events all the time about this, like one-on-one, not as a group. I say, hey, how the grades going? Because I try to get a feel for, hey, how can I help them? What direction do I need to look at for them? And the first question I ask, because I can take in the baseball stuff with my eyes, I can see that for myself. Hey, how are the grades? And often the answer is, hey, I'm I'm doing good now. I'm trying to bring things up. I had a rough freshman year because I didn't take it seriously. And that freshman year GPA counts the exact same as your senior year GPA. So it's all you get it's worth 25% of your high school. So each class, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, is more or less 25% of your cumulative GPA. Now, there's you might sneak in an extra class or something like that to throw those percentages off. But your freshman year is very important, so it's huge to get off to a good start.
And we can't leave out NAIA. I want people to, especially in the state here, and they have the most scholarships to give out.
Yes, and yeah, certainly did not mean to leave them out. I was trying to work down through the academic wheel, if
Ladder.
you will, and NIIs, fit in there. There's some very, that's more of a case by case situation from an academic standpoint as a whole. The NAI situation.
NAIA are mostly they're private schools, folks. Just an FYI, and they are part of that. And I've heard people try and lump them at, well, they more like Division II. Is it like Division III? Is it JUCO? Don't try and do that, because I think each school there are schools that you could probably there's NAIA schools that I think could probably go compete with low Division I schools, and
absolutely
right?
There is. 100%. I've seen that firsthand.
And then there's NAIA schools that are probably more toward Division III.
We have a great one right here in our town. Missouri Baptist is a perennial power. Coach Oshold over there has been there a very long time and does great job with that program. So that would be another option for high schoolers to go out and watch a baseball game and see what that looks like.
And they always have talent. That's a solid program. And I know my son pitched against them, so and that was always a tough game, man. So I get it. I've seen that. I've seen all those levels, and I think that's the biggest thing with that. Kevin, the one thing here, the next step to that, once I love the thought process here and where you're going, because I think as freshmen, and I think this is great, we shouldn't even really be thinking about college at this point, should we?
Not in my opinion. And I'm really thankful the NCAA changed the rule on the recruiting. In years past, I'd come back from the future games and we'd even talk about it on the show. Hey, so-and-so is now committed to Big School U from the junior future games. So the kid hadn't even done a high school class yet or played in a high school baseball game, and he is committed to one of the mega baseball elites. And there was nothing wrong with that. I think that's great for those kids and the parents. And I completely understand it as a school. You're trying to get an edge, and you're beating people to the punch, and you identify a good player, you're going to recruit them. And I get all that, but this is going to clean a lot of things up and put the priorities back in line. And what a high school freshman should be thinking about is exactly what we've talked about so far. Getting off to a good start academically, and then once he's got a handle on that, he's going to tackle how to make a high school baseball team and how to become a good player and get yourself into the weight room and those type of things, and focus on, hey, how can I be a really good high school baseball player? And obviously their goals are, hey, let's get to college. But nowadays you cannot get a phone call until August 1st of your going to be junior year from a college. So our juniors are just starting. That rule just went in place this middle of the spring. And so we're kind of in a window right now where we have some guys that were already committed. There's some freshmen that are committed. There's an 8th grader or two out there that's committed. But moving forward now, high school kids don't even have to worry about that anymore, which is great until August 1st of their going to be junior year. So we can worry about what's important for the first 2 years of high school. And then if you've been successful and uh, you are doing well, you might get rewarded with some phone calls from colleges.
I love this thought because, on our youth baseball talk show with Mitch, these are things we've talked about, and I love this because I stuck that college in there, but you brought it back into perspective and things we talk about. We talk about these kids at 12, 13, and 14 as to what high school are they going to. We promote that part of it. We talk about this with this home run derby coming up. That's what we put, their club team or wherever they're playing in the summer, which is fine, great, fantastic. But what high school they're going to. We've got a couple kids going to be going over to Zumwalt West, Howell Central. We got, I think, a SLU kid in there, Ladue, Lafayette. I mean, these are programs that we talk about quite a bit. And so we're going to be able to see these kids coming out of, and that's what I love about the youth side of it, with what we do a lot with Game 7, is we see all these kids, and now we're following right into high school.
100%. And definitely the club baseball, it carries a lot of importance, especially when you get to high school, finding the extra level of competition and just consistent competition, playing not just in the spring during high school. If you want to be a good high school baseball player, in my opinion, club baseball is extremely necessary, because you can't just play. If you're going to be a good player, you can't just play March, April, May during the high school season. So the guys that go out and play a competitive schedule in the summer and train with their clubs in the winter, those guys get a tremendous advantage. And we're fortunate. We have a lot of good club baseball programs in our area and in our state, with a lot of good instruction. And, the strength training is now such a big piece of it. So I'm a huge proponent of that, and that's important. And I would say that would loop into somewhere step 3, 4, 5, in this equation that we're talking about as well.
So we're gonna save those steps for next week. I think that's good.
Yeah.
Because I think it's, I love that how you brought that back, because my brain, and this is, I think, too much what we're trained to do. College. No, let's. And we've been talking about the youth level. Here's what it is. It should be. Let's focus on high school. Let's get these kids in. Let's talk about these things.
In my opinion, in having an opportunity to walk this walk, I have a 7-year-old, and I coach his team. Now, we're not even to this point, but once you get a group to the middle school age, in my opinion, your goal as a coach your focus should be 100% on developing those guys, preparing them to be able to make a high school baseball team. To me, that is far more important than winning a trophy or a championship. Yes, those are good and they're fun, and you want to win some along the way. But really, everything should be put into a developmental standpoint. We're trying to develop kids and get them ready to be able to make a high school baseball team one day, and to be able to handle high school baseball coaching as well, which is also going to be, another level of intensity, most likely, from what a lot of our middle schoolers have seen so far. Not all, but some.
Well, I've said this. I believe this very much. I've used this in coaching myself, and I think it's the way you do it. I think that you bring the development process in, and you teach kids how to work hard, what it takes to continue to develop the processes, those types of things. Because winning, that's where you win. Winning is about developing the right attitude, the right, I call it physical focus and mental focus. If you can bring those two together and do them correctly, you're going to get the opportunity. You're going to be put in a position, you're going to be put in an opportunity to have wins. That doesn't guarantee that you're always going to win, but you'll have that, and that's what you want to set that. And if you can start talking to the kids about this, these are the things that set those things in motion and give you the opportunities. All we're doing here is helping you understand how to do things right, to put yourself in the right place with the opportunity to succeed. And that, to me, is what winning is.
Yes. And when I said intensity, I also want to clarify this for middle school. What I meant by intensity is intensity in the workload, the practices. Hey, we're going to practice 5 or 6 days a week. We're going to be out here for 2.5 hours and get our work in. It's not just, hey, I'm going to take some BP and play some catch. And again, I'm not saying that that's that teams don't do that in middle school, but it does change in high school across the board as a broad stroke there.
I agree. I think this is great, and we're gonna bring some more of this. Well, I wanted to finish up real quick. There were some kids from the junior games, 14-year-olds especially, coming into this year that I'm hoping we're going to be able to see a little bit. I don't know, but we'll see where they're going. And then Kevin's going to throw in some incoming freshmen here that he thinks going to make a splash. Always fun to watch. But some kids to watch. One is right off the top there, Cole Chambers. He's going to be going to St. Louis U High School. That kid he's talented, isn't he, Kevin?
Very talented, phenomenal athlete. It'll be interesting to follow Cole. He's a heck of a baseball player. He's also a big-time soccer player, one of the elite goalies in the St. Louis area. Plays with the new soccer team in town, the feeder program through the professional FC St. Louis, right?
Yeah.
So,
or St. Louis City.
St. Louis City. I apologize. Yeah. Hopefully, he goes the baseball route, but I know there will be some competition. But hopefully, we've talked about the multi-sport thing. He should be able to pull that off with soccer being big in the fall and baseball in the spring and summer. He kind of is one of the guys. There's a kid named Chase Stieferman out of Jeff City that's already committed to Mizzou. He was one of those guys that snuck in as before that rule and committed to Missouri. That he's going to be a special one, left-handed pitcher and hitter. We got a good young crop of guys. Carson Ludhauser, elite catch and throw guy. It's going to be a fun one to watch behind the plate. Luke McAtee and Brandon Ott. Luke's a catcher, big, strong, physical guy. Brandon Ott, tall, wiry. He's already 6'3" or so. Super skinny right now, and he's going to be fun to watch develop throughout his high school career.
So he's already taller than his dad.
Oh yeah. They're not even going back to back. You don't need a measurement on that.
Sorry, Mike.
Max Partney is another one to have a serious eye on out of Hillsboro. Can really swing the bat. Bodie Shenework, Jeff City kid, really liked him. Nathaniel Eakins out of the Springfield area. We know we have a lot of good players down there. Nolan Ash,
Southern Boone.
That's Coach Ash's boy. Is coming up. That'll be one to have an eye on.
Kevin, there was a kid here, and it's a small town. You don't think about it, but this one really, Howie Donahoe, Chillicothe, plays for Team KC. He's already 6'3", I think.
Very good player. He was on our Mocan JFG team. You remember the name Curry Sutherland We talked about him. Logan Rogersville committed to Missouri. He's got a younger brother named Jack that'll be coming through down there. So it's there's a lot of strong players.
I love to point out, because Chillicothe, it's off the beaten path. People, that's a real small school, and most people won't see this young man, in that respect.
Michael Wolf, Fort Zumwalt West, adding more talent. No surprise. They didn't need the help, but they're getting it.
Exactly.
So yeah, there's a lot of good ones coming up, and the fun thing about this is, we rattled off some names there. There are plenty of players we have no clue who they are that will, maybe they're just not known yet, or maybe they haven't developed yet, and things will change. And I have this talk with the guys at the Junior Future Games is, hey, you guys are kind of at the top of the heap right now, but think about that guy that just missed this opportunity, how he's feeling, how he's going to be working hard to, try to pass you by, et cetera. And they got 4 years to do it. So there'll be a ton of guys that, pop up on the radar over the next couple of years.
And I think that's because these are things that were interesting. Because I was looking through the names, I go through this stuff, but there was one of this young man that popped off the deal because he was 4'9", and it really struck me. I'm like, you don't usually see 4 foot, but he's a 2028. He was at the Junior Games, but a Liberty North.
Cisneros.
I knew you'd know.
Yes.
I mean,
he's a little baller. He can really pick it at shortstop. He, that was a fun guy to have on the team. He won't stay 4'9" forever. So, and I'll bring that up too. And I almost did earlier in the conversation. When we talked about guys getting phone calls on August 1st. There are plenty of guys that won't get phone calls then and will still go on to be really good college baseball players. There'll be guys that don't get calls on August 1st that end up in the big leagues one day. So development happens differently at different times for everybody. And the important thing is just keep running the race, keep working your butt off, keep working hard, and eventually results will most likely follow.
Very good. Folks, this is really good advice. We don't call him the guru for nothing, folks. I'm telling you. This is I love this conversation. We're going to continue this conversation over the next few weeks because I think it's absolutely important. If you have a young athlete and you're interested in like you said, high school athletics. We talk about baseball because that's what we do around here. That's why it's called Youth Baseball Midwest. And we hope to see these young men take their talents into high school, playing for their high school teams. And it goes to this, Kevin. We talk about community. My son played at East, played on a couple of really good teams that, there was one team his junior I really thought had the talent and the abilities to win districts. Didn't quite get it done, lost in district. But this, not this last year, but the year before, won their first district title. And it was so cool coming back. My son came, watching that game and being part of that. And, you feel good for the program. You feel good for the people that have put in all that work, to get, and these kids that put in all that work and what that meant to the program. I think that's huge. That's huge.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
That's what it's about, folks, and we appreciate it. Kevin, as always, man, appreciate you dropping the knowledge.
A lot of fun.
Absolutely. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Please, if you like, comment below. I'm sure Lauren threw the comment button in there all the time. Comment below. Tell us what you think. Ask the questions. We'd love to hear from you. Subscribe if you're a first-time watcher. Subscribe. Hit that dinger next to it because that's what we do around here. We hit dingers, unbeknownst to the pitcher across from me. But,
I
you
love
know,
home runs.
just as long as they're not against you, right?
Right. Yes.
There you
Well,
go.
actually, now I try to give up home runs all the time in my backyard to my sons. So, yeah, I don't mind them anymore off me.
I love that. That's great. Go ahead, son. Hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
There you go. So, folks, thanks again. Everybody, have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers,
Keep throwing strikes.
hitters, hit some bombs. And we'll see y'all next time.